Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. And today we're being joined by Ready Go Politics to look at both candidates' pass to 270 electoral college votes. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And Rep, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Red Eagle Politics. For those who don't know, I run a YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers specializing in election analysis and cutting through the mainstream media narrative. And that's very important when it comes down to polls and stuff like that, especially during the election season.
Yeah, 100%. We got all these people like Nate Silver who just kind of like throw his model around. Somehow Kamala Harris gains 50 points on net in a model. I mean, that's just completely unrealistic. You have 538 that has Florida as lean-R. We have a bunch of people out there that think reverse coattails are real, but we're going to be addressing a lot of those things in this video when we look at both candidates' pass, and we're going to be looking at the most realistic pass for both candidates. And as we both know, this cycle is pretty interesting because Donald Trump is the one that actually has more pass than compared to the last election. Usually it's the Democrat, whether that had been Hillary or Biden, objectively had more pass to 270 electoral college votes. But it seems like Trump is really the one that actually is in that spot. So we're going to go ahead and look at the battleground states right now. We're going to start filling out the map here. I'll go ahead and do the safe red states and the safe blue states, and then we'll kind of like just go ahead and look at the swing states together. So, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, except that second congressional district. The polling there has been looking pretty bad for Donald Trump as of now. Kansas, Oklahoma, Alaska, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Missouri, Iowa, Ohio. We practically don't have to worry about this cycle. And Texas and Florida, I would say, are really in Donald Trump's column, as well as South Carolina and Maine second, California, Oregon, Washington, as well as Colorado, New Mexico, Illinois, Hawaii, DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, most of the Northeast, New York, Maine's first, is kind of in that column. And I could even say, for the sake of this video, Virginia is sort of in the blue column right now until we kind of have some further notice as well. And we could say the same thing for Minnesota, Maine, and New Hampshire. So we have the traditional, battleground states that tend to pretty much decide the elections. And these were the battleground states last cycle. And go ahead and list some of the pass you think that Donald Trump could take or Kamala Harris could take to 270.
Well, this is the big seven, and usually Nebraska's second, probably not going to be a piece to the puzzle for Donald Trump, all things considered, just given trends in the Rust Belt and kind of conflicting with trends in that district. But I would say that North Carolina is a must-win state for Trump, and it seems as if he's going to win the state. I think, you look at the current polling aggregate, what is it? He's up by 1.4% on RCP. A lot of the polls that have him down were historically awful, both election cycles. Even some of the polls that have him up or like tied were awful in 2020. You have party registration moving to the right. You have a competent state party. They just cleaned out the voter rolls there recently. That was a big victory. It's not talked about a lot, but it's a big help for sure. And Donald Trump is not taking it for granted. I think that that's definitely a piece to the puzzle. The Harris campaign's very bullish on North Carolina. They think that down ballot races are going to impact the presidential race, which is the reverse coattails that we've both mentioned ad nauseum on our respective channels. And it's not real. There's no case where somebody's going to get out and vote and say, I'm voting because it's the governor's race, or I was going to vote for Trump, but now because some down ballot candidate has a scandal, they're going to vote for, Kamala Harris of all people. That's not how this typically works. So North Carolina, it's almost certainly, in my opinion, I'd say with high confidence, he's going to win North Carolina. Georgia as well. The polls are looking good in Georgia. Definitely Kamala Harris in terms of black turnout. So far, the data is not looking all that great for her in North Carolina. It is carrying over to Georgia in the mail-in request. That doesn't mean they can't turn a corner, but you're not going to likely see Biden 2020 level black turnout where you had COVID at its peak, BLM at its peak, and on top of that you have the whole Donald Trump improving thing that's been prevalent in a lot of polls. I don't think he's going to win 25% of the black vote like some of these polls show, but if you're talking about 25% of black men under 30, yeah, that's doable, and that is a big shift, and it does add up. So Georgia, I think, turning a corner just based on the polling, based on the environment improving for him since 2020, and the fact that you're not seeing as much interstate migration to these swing states, unlike what you saw in the 2010s. Those two states going red. He's already at 251. Now there's other pathways besides this one, but this is the most talked about, the easiest pathway if he wins Pennsylvania, which the recent Atlas Intel poll is showing the result that the internal polls for both campaigns have been reported to be showing, which is like a Trump lead of 2 to 3 points or so. That is huge. And people forget that Joe Biden did have a lot of ties to the Eastern Pennsylvania area, and everything went right for him. And even then, what was it, like a 1-point game in his favor at most? Then you have the past 4 years. You replace Scranton Joe with San Francisco Kamala, and you already have trends favorable to Republicans in the state. You have all these polls that were showing double-digit victories or close to it for Biden in 2020. Now they're all showing tied race, tied race, tied race. I feel like a lot of it is poll hurting. Some polls don't want to, show a candidate with a lead one way or another. They don't want to be that first poll to show a Trump lead. Then you have Atlas Intel, foreign pollster, great track record, though, comes in, shows it. Who knows what's going to happen now? But either way, I think he's favored in all three, and that's the path to 270. Now, he can win with other pathways. He can get Wisconsin. If he doesn't get Pennsylvania, you can give him Wisconsin and Arizona. That would do it. If Harris somehow got Georgia, Donald Trump could win with Pennsylvania and Arizona, either Wisconsin or Arizona, Nevada. There's plenty of pathways, and he's looking good in Arizona. He's looking good in Nevada. He's looking good in pretty much a lot of these swing states, especially compared to 2020. And you have these people in the election mafia, is what I like to call them, these, mainstream media people or people who repeat their narrative that try to act like, oh, the polls are all right. All the mainstream media polls are right. Every, right-wing analyst is a hack, but every left-wing analyst is a genius who's operating under good faith or whatever. These people, they pretend as if, the polls are all fixed. And are they really fixed? What's the evidence? Because you can't compare a midterm year to a presidential year because, again, you didn't see the polling misses in 2022 and 2018 in Wisconsin, but you saw them in 2016 and 2020. So that tells me that it's a little bit deeper than what a lot of these people are saying. And there is this problem that a lot of these pollsters still have. And them being accurate in these midterm years is giving them a lot of, falsely earned hubris for 2024, and it might not pay off too well for them.
Nope, definitely not. And we see that, it's very simple because I did a video on this. If you get the Quinnipiac crosstabs, the CNN poll crosstabs, and the New York Times/CNN crosstabs, you get like these DF rated pollsters that I graded myself on my own scorecard. If you get their demographic modeling and you apply it to the Cook Political Report swingometer and you average out all three maps, she can't even win Arizona or Georgia or North Carolina. She's losing both of them by or all three of them by over 2. And Nevada is like a 1-point win for Trump in that case. And Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are less than 0.3 percentage points each for Harris with Michigan going. So even with the pollsters that would have showed Biden ahead with 389 electoral votes, now have Kamala Harris ahead by the skin of her teeth. And so it's like if those polls only have her ahead in the Rust Belt states, it's like what are her chances in the Sun Belt states? And it just has to do with those white voters really not favoring the Biden administration. I mean, it's as simple as that. A lot of people, yes, it is good that Trump is getting, more of the African-American Hispanic vote as well. But what really is the majority of the electorate in pretty much almost every state is, in fact, that coalition is the white vote. And that's what's going to push Donald Trump over in some of these swing states with the combination of the minority support that he's getting. I believe that Arizona is looking really bad for her. She just went to the
She's giving
border.
up in Arizona, it seems.
Well, she did a photo op today at the border, so it's
Well,
like
yeah, I
last
mean,
Hail Mary. So that's that. And then Nevada, I mean, Rich is doing polling there, and he says that he's down, or she's down in Clark County in his early numbers in Nevada, which is like really bad. And that was after 2 days of data collection. We'll see what the final poll is, but the fact that that's even the case is pretty abysmal for Kamala Harris. And the demographics there are just looking good because you have the no tax on tips thing that Trump did first. And so that's looking great for him. And a lot of people know that she copied him. And there's a large working class, young type of voter in Nevada, especially people that work in the service industry or the food industry. And that's going to really hurt Kamala Harris with those kind of voters in a place like Nevada or even Arizona to an extent, because Arizona, especially in the Phoenix area, there's a lot of entrepreneurship there. And I think that's also going to really hurt Kamala Harris in Maricopa. I mean, Suffolk USA today had like a Trump +4 result in Maricopa when you looked at their crosstabs for the poll. And not all the polls released their county crosstabs like that. So the fact that he's up there by 4 and it's like this left-leaning pollster is pretty bad for Kamala Harris. That Maricopa is like a 4-point win for Trump. That's like a 6-point swing from the previous cycle. And so if we were to believe that Nevada, Arizona, Georgia are kind of in that column, really he can win with any of these, including Nebraska second, which congressional Republicans in Nebraska didn't have the balls or the spine to even change the law for it to be winner take all after Maine essentially ran out of time. They're not doing it, which I think is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. And I think they're
they're
going to
cowards.
yeah, and they're going to suffer electorally because of that. They're not going to lose seats, but I think that Don Bacon, there's a possibility that he may go down. It depends on the Kamala Harris margin there, because we've seen polling out of Nebraska second. It looks really bad, but if Trump somehow picked off Nebraska second, he could even win with a tie, presumably if he wins through the House of Representatives. So that's also something interesting to think about as well. And looking at the Rust Belt, I mean, even without Nebraska second, he could win with any of these three and still win. Now, the paths for Kamala Harris are interesting because, again, you could do the 270 path up there. That's her most straightforward path. They are ancestrally Democrat states, and they have shifted, but they are ancestrally Democrat compared to even Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, because Nevada is ancestrally Republican, really. So really, that is her most realistic path, is that 270 margin. However, it seems like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are not looking great for her with non-college educated voters. And so there's a couple of paths that she does have, but are very confusing and may not make sense. So let's say she gets Georgia and North Carolina, and a lot of people have this map, and you're going to know what I'm talking about. People have this map, some liberal predictors
Well,
like
of course they do, because they know that she's not favored, but if they have her winning narrowly, it's like a, save face moment. Like, oh, she could just get there. And I'm not saying she can't win, but it is true. That's like a pathway that's not all that realistic. Like, yeah, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Wisconsin very well could vote to the right of Pennsylvania, but, just saying if he really rebounds in like the Georgia suburbs, but not exactly in like the Phoenix suburbs. It's kind of I don't know. It's a little bit of a confusing map. Yeah. A lot of these states, they do vote like a block, and while Nevada could vote to the right of Arizona, I kind of see them voting about the same.
Yeah, I think so too. This cycle, I think they're going to be about the same. I think in the future, I think it'll be possible for Arizona and Nevada to vote separately. And they would both have to be really close for that to happen. It would have to be very marginal differences in Maricopa and Clark. Like those counties would kind of have to change in order for that to even be possible. And at that point, it really would kind of be a fluke if that actually occurred. But looking at this path, this is like one of the more popular ones that people put out there because, Michigan and Pennsylvania, they're going to go blue because whatever. No, Arizona, Maricopa. And then, Nevada, Joe Lombardo won. So Kamala Harris can't win there. And then in Wisconsin, it's like, we'll just give that one to Trump. And then Georgia, North Carolina, it's, Ted Bunn and
yeah, it's the midterm brain poison.
Yeah, it's the midterm cult map, basically. That's what it is. And then now, based on the behavior of the Kamala Harris campaign, which this one's even worse. I mean, they already gave up on Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada. They think that their path, based on the
Yeah.
behavior of the campaign, is this, which would only happen if Trump is winning non-college by like a 70 to 30 margin, but it's losing African Americans like 95 to 5%. Like that's the only way that this map would even statistically even have a chance of happening. Like there would have to be ridiculously high black turnout for this to even occur. Like it
Oh
would be
yeah,
ridiculous.
and at that point, North Carolina is the eyesore because yeah, I mean, if black turnout is really a factor, if she got record high turnout, but Trump did really really well with non-college whites, where he's kind of close to maxed out in like Georgia. Yeah, maybe you could see Michigan, Georgia be blue, and then the rest of the swing states be red. But North Carolina does have a sizable portion of the population. A lot of their whites are working class whites compared to even a place like Georgia where there's more college educated whites. And on top of that, you talk about the black vote. I mean, it's not likely going to be enough. Like Obama made inroads with white working class voters
Yep.
in 2008. Maybe not a lot because he didn't exactly have to do that when you had black turnout that high, but he did make some inroads that a lot of those voters are Trump voters. They're not coming back, especially for Kamala Harris of all people.
Right.
So it's just delusion, electoral, just misunderstanding. It's not like the GOP in North Carolina is weak either. They're tough. They're strong.
Right.
They're definitely have got a great apparatus. They're playing to win, keep the state red. This whole reverse coattails nonsense. I really hope they just bank on that because it's going to blow up in their face. And
Yeah.
by the way, tying Trump to Robinson probably just helps Robinson because, Trump voters aren't leaving Trump because Trump rallied with Mark Robinson a couple months ago. But it will start this, oh, well, he's being targeted just like they're targeting Trump, like rally
Yeah.
cry to unify a lot of those,
Yep.
type of people that you gravitate towards
Right.
Trump. And
And
maybe they did split tickets because maybe they are ancestral Democrats and whatnot. But, I'm not saying it's going to help Robinson like win, but I'm saying that you could make more of a case that it would help, galvanize support behind Robinson
right.
that he otherwise could lose to Stein, more so than, oh, it's going to take supporters away from Trump and magically give them to Kamala Harris, because that is not how this thing works.
No, it definitely does not work that way. And people, a certain type of person we know on X, he believes that for whatever reason, Harris is going to win 319 electoral votes in the electoral college, which is just an absolute travesty and a joke. And he even doesn't even understand why Obama won the first two elections. It wasn't because of African Americans necessarily. It was because of white working class voters. Like that's what
Yeah.
really got, like, African American voters alone did not give Obama the victory. They just didn't. Like it just didn't. Period. Like they're too
Yeah.
electorate for them to have made up the win. I mean, yes, they pushed him over in North Carolina, but they're not the reason that he won re-election in 2012. He won re-election in 2012 because Mitt Romney was not a viable candidate with white working class voters. He was a part of the country club, old establishmentarian type of GOP, and it just wouldn't have worked out, period. And that is the reason why Obama won in 2012. It wasn't solely because of African American voters. It was mainly due to white working class voters. And if they're trying to bank on this 2008 type of thinking where, oh, Kamala Harris is going to drive up blacks and Hispanic turnout and women turnout, and she's just going to completely blow it out of the park in the swing states, I hate to break it to you, but me and Rep are kind of saying, nope, that's definitely not going to happen. And so, guys, right now, I mean, both of us essentially have the election roughly. Well, I have a little bit higher. My model, for whatever reason, currently has Maine, New Hampshire, and Minnesota barely going to Trump. I know we fundamentally have differences on how we kind of do things, but I would say that we could agree Trump's probably going to get 312 on election night as of right now. So this is where we're sort of both standing as like a consensus map. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to go ahead and hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And Rep, any closing statements?
Yeah, one thing I'll say is that when you have these people that constantly doubt Trump, and they were wrong in 2016, they were wrong in 2020, it's because they don't understand the realignment at hand here. They don't understand what's driving the Trump revolution. They don't understand what's driving, these white working class turnout trends. They don't get nuance. They don't understand the difference between a middle American suburb and a, suburb like in Northern Virginia. And it kind of just shows. And if you can't see the nuance and you really think Harris is, the favorite, well, you're probably going to be wrong unless something goes drastically wrong over the next 38 days. So that's what I'll leave it at that.
All right. And thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. And everyone, have a great rest of your day.